Hey, this is Jen from Pick, Plant, and Prune. I'm starting all my seeds for the garden, both my personal garden and the community garden, in the next couple weeks. I'll be giving you a couple of tips that I use to make everything a little bit easier. So this weekend I had the time to organize my big pile of seeds that was still in a jumble from the fall of last year. And so I thought everybody might want to see how I organize them and what containers I use to keep them organized and dry and clean, even when we're using them in the garden. So I use these photo containers. I got these ones off of Amazon. So they're supposed to hold the old 5x7 photos that we all used to get printed, which we don't do anymore. They perfectly fit a seed packet. So they fit perfect inside. I have 3 different containers, all separated by what type of seed is in there. So I have one for indoor starters. This is any seed I'm going to start before I'm in my greenhouse. So these are early February, March, early April starters here. Then I have the direct seeds. So those are the ones that we're going to put right into the ground. And so they don't need to be started early indoors, so I separate them all together, so that I can just take that with us when we go to the greenhouse. I don't have to worry about looking through them or starting them early. And then I have a whole nother bin just for flowers. I like these holders a lot because, as I said, they keep the water out even when you're in the field. So say it starts raining while you're planting, all your other seeds don't get wet. And you don't have to worry about it, especially for us at the community garden. We have a lot of volunteers and some who are children. It just makes it a little bit easier for you to find and give what needs to be planted. I also like it because you can write right on there what it is. And then if you ever want to wipe it off, we use a permanent marker. And then if you ever wipe it off, you just use nail polish remover and it comes right off and you can put a new name on there. They're super easy to clean, super easy to store. And so this has been my favorite. So one of the containers that I keep in these boxes has tabs to put in pots and a pen to write on those tabs or any other containers or packets. This is super important because it's making it even easier for you to repot, pot up, treat your plants, and label them all properly. These tabs I make out of yogurt containers, and so I'll do a little video on how I make those next time. This is my 5th year trying to grow sweet potatoes, and it's my only year that was successful. And it makes me so sad because I listened to other people for so many years and it just never worked. And then I ignored a bag of sweet potatoes in the back of my pantry for long enough and it worked. They all sprouted. I think I had 2 that rotted and the rest of them sprouted all over the place. So this year I have a ton of sweet potato slips. I'm super excited that I'm going to have sweet potatoes to grow this year. Because sweet potatoes, unlike regular white potatoes, it's really difficult to grow them from just a chunk of potato. So like Yukon potatoes or russets grow really well just from an eye planted in the ground. Sweet potatoes really only grow if you have a slip. And so a slip is just a shoot off of the potato. We'll remove all the leaves that are where they're rooting and plant right up to the top, maybe 3 or 4 leaflets at the top. So all of this will root, and then that's where the sweet potatoes will grow off of. So that's why they can't really grow off of a chunk of potato, because there is no shoot yet. It's just the eye that hasn't grown. So what we'll do with these is these will grow for the next couple of months, and then I'll cut them into 8-inch sections about 4 weeks before we can put them out to reroot them again on a shorter stalk, and then we'll plant those right in the ground. So now that I'm growing again, I've started growing microgreens just for my family's use. It's a really easy thing to grow. You don't even need grow lights at all for microgreens. You can just grow them on a window ledge or on your kitchen counter if it gets a little bit of sunlight. Microgreens are pretty cheap to grow. You just need a tray that drains water to the bottom, and they're pretty easy to add into a lot of dishes just for an extra boost of nutrients, especially when our gardens aren't producing during the winter. So right now I'm growing pea microgreens, which tend to be a fan favorite in smoothies and just to eat as a snack when they're really, really short and still really sweet. I have a spicy salad mix. This has radish in it, broccoli, kohlrabi, and alfalfa. And so it's like just light to put on sandwiches or salads. And then I have sunflower, which is the easiest to just eat or put on salads. It tastes a lot like sunflower oil, tastes a lot like sunflower seeds, and it has a little bit of a sweet crunch to it. It's really easy to add in, and the kids end up eating this one just like a snack. So it's the first week of March here just outside of Ottawa, and I'm going to be planting my onions. So I'm planting onions early because they have a really long harvest time, and in Ottawa we have a fairly short season. We have a really long spring and a really early fall usually, and so onions really like a lot of heat to get their size bigger and grow stronger. So onions take a pretty long time. It's 125 days to harvest, and they don't really want to be set out when it's too cold. So we're going probably early to middle of May depending on how the weather goes. So you want to be able to harvest them before it gets wet and cold. You want to be able to dry the outside of the onion skin so that it stores better and doesn't rot. So in Ottawa, we really have to start them inside quite early so that you get a nice big onion by the time we get to harvest. So the way that I do onions, I use a flat tray full of just germination soil. So this is not going to have any perlite in it. It's very cocoa fiber dense, so it's really quite light. It allows their roots to move really quickly. Just planted the onions for early start. We'll be planting them early May, depending on the weather, of course. You never know in this area. And so the way that I do it is I do a full flat tray full of soil. I lightly tamp the soil down so that it's pretty flat. And then I rough up just 3 straight rows down the soil. And then I slightly tamp those down again so that they're a little bit bumped up and loose soil. Then I sprinkle the onions heavily. So I don't follow the planting guide for onions at all. When I start them inside, I just sprinkle them way too close together. Then when we go to plant them, we slowly, gently just pull them apart. And because this soil is so loose, they all just come apart and then we plant them individually. The other option to this is soil blocking. I just found this faster and easier with the setup I have to do it this way. I have 2 rows of Walla Walla onions. These are a larger storage onion. And then I have 1 row of bunching onions. And I'll probably reseed bunching onions later in the summer, in July, roughly. So we talked about planting onions today, both storage and bunching onions. If you have any questions, let me know below, and I'll be sure to answer. Hag-a-ding-a-dang-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding.